Hello, everyone. This is JJ Richa. I'm with Pismo Ventures, and I have with me today Lisa Walker. Lisa is the Vice President of Tech Coast Angels Orange County, and I will let her introduce herself in a little bit. But first, let's give you a little bit of information about the program today. I hope everyone is doing well. First, this program is about an hour. And what we do is we're going to go through some introductions and some discussions, some questions we have. And then you can also ask questions along the way yourself. So please don't hesitate to ask questions along the way. Don't wait until the end before asking questions. So there is a chat box in YouTube where you're at. So when you want to ask questions or have any discussion, please just type your questions in the chat box. So again, don't wait till the end. And also, if you're not able to ask questions, or if we cannot answer a question that you may have, what you can do is you can email me at pvinfo@pismoventures.com. And I will forward any specific questions to Lisa that she may be able to answer. The other thing I was going to say is, this program is very specifically targeting our entrepreneur and startup community and our ecosystem. We're trying to help the entrepreneurs and the startups navigate the vibrant community by bringing on board thought leaders, investors, serial entrepreneurs, leaders, movers, and shakers in the community that help the ecosystem by answering questions, maybe helping them understand what it takes to be investable, what it takes to really build, grow, and exit or sell your business. The other thing is, we with this current climate, sometimes you're learning about new things. So we're helping the entrepreneurs and the startups really learn all that. Just a little bit about Pismo Ventures. I just wanted to give you a quick idea of what we do. We are a venture firm and an accelerator and a venture studio all in one. We also have a software development arm. So we can help our portfolio companies develop software for them as well, basically, potentially any type of technology. So what we do is we help build businesses. We also invest resources, which means services and cash, into our portfolio companies. We develop software. We facilitate funding, and also we're going to help open doors for our companies so they become successful. And really reach the objectives they're trying to reach. We're building the fund this year, and the fund will potentially help invest in our portfolio companies. We are a value-based hybrid cash and equity startup-friendly model. We engage with our clients or portfolio companies on a month-to-month basis, no long-term contracts. And that way we become a true business partner and investors to our portfolio companies. Let's see if I have any other notes before I ask Lisa to jump. Yes, one is, if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please subscribe now. Just click on subscribe. You're on it. We would appreciate that, and that way you're always abreast of all the upcoming events that we have. Also, please don't forget to follow us on social media. All right, so we're excited to have Lisa today. Lisa, how are you?
I'm awesome. How are you doing today, JJ?
I'm doing great. So instead of me introducing you, I figured it's better for you to introduce yourself. Just tell us a little bit about you and about your maybe investment journey and as a TCA OC Vice President.
Okay, sure. I kind of grew up in the high-tech community in San Diego. I was involved with some very early startups there, and one of my best experiences was very, very early company that got acquired and enabled me to then go on and do a lot of other things. And I thought, well, that was a lot of fun. So I went to some other organizations. Ended up leading an imaging technology company for many years. Went through a couple of acquisition cycles there. Came out the other end, and then kind of sort of sold off the technology pieces of that company, and went into doing some things on my own, helping coaching and advising business owners and entrepreneurs. And that kind of led me to TCA. I'd kind of gotten a little bit away from the technology community and forgotten how much I liked it. And so I got involved with TCA a couple of years ago, and I'm just having a blast there. My education is in marketing, so that's, although a lot of my career has been in product management, so sort of a combination of tech and herding engineers to creating products that companies can sell.
And herding is a technical term. There you go.
Yes, it is. That's exactly what it was. So that's how I sort of ended up at TCA, and then I'm participating in a group of TCA, and I think there's some Cove people in there as well, who decided to start up this diagnostic clinic. We can talk more about that later, but I'm participating in that to help the entrepreneurs who are coming through TCA and some from the Cove, to help them get their marketing down right.
Yeah, I love the program. Yeah, we'll talk about it a little bit more. But before we do that, so you and I are both pilots. I fly Cessna's 182 or 172. You fly a different plane. Tell us about just a little bit about your flying journey, because I love pilots. So there you go.
Well, flying's a whole lot more fun than what I'm going through right now, which is I just discovered that I have a serious engine problem, so I'm getting the engine pulled out of the airplane this week and shipped up somewhere in Canada to be repaired. That's not a lot of fun. But the rest of it is a lot of fun. I love flying. It's a perspective that you can't get any other way. Being in a small airplane, especially in this country, people really, I think, don't appreciate the freedoms that we have. Even right now, I can go get in my plane and fly anywhere I want by myself, perfectly safe, not near anybody. And it's a view from, that altitude, right? A few thousand feet or, 8,000, whatever. That's a view that you can't get any other way.
That's very true.
The freedom of it and, the visuals of it are just amazing to me.
Well, I think it's also related to the entrepreneurial, journey, because you have to have a lot of planning when you get into an airplane, before you get in, when you're in there, when you're trying to land. So extending the runway is one of those things where you want to make sure that you do everything right, because as you and I know, when an incident happens in an airplane, it's not just one mistake. It's multitude of mistakes. It's the same thing as a startup.
It takes 3 to kill you. That's the general.
There you go. Yeah. All right. So one last thing, I like those medals behind you. What is that all about?
That's my other hobby, which is skydiving. I do competitive formation skydiving. So those are medals. I have about 8 world records in formations. And people always ask me, oh my gosh, why would you jump out of a perfectly good airplane? No, being a pilot and airplane owner as well, my answer is, well, we don't use perfectly good airplanes for skydiving operations. That would be a waste of resources. We use, my computer's trying to go to sleep. That's interesting. We use airplanes that are, not really suitable for normal commercial operations anymore. And I'm going to be fine. I've got 2 parachutes. The only guy taking a chance is a pilot. He's got to land the thing. So.
All right. Well, I haven't tried that, so I will try it one day. All right. Let's get started with some questions that our listeners are waiting for. So let's start by talking about maybe the common causes of startup failures, again, from a marketing standpoint. What are some of the most common causes of startup failures that you think about from a marketing standpoint?
Yeah, this is a question we pondered in depth in the Cove Marketing Angels group that I'm in, because that was one of the reasons why we formed the group is that we kept having these startups that would fail because they didn't spend enough time working on their marketing or thinking about their marketing. And so we found that there are really three sort of primary areas where they fall down. The first is product market fit. So a lot of times we'll hear from entrepreneurs who are, they have this great solution in search of a problem, right? So they don't really, they've done something technically that, may be amazing from a technical standpoint, but if it doesn't solve a real problem that people have, then it's not going to succeed. So they fail to really understand the problem that they're solving, or really, maybe they know the problem at a high level, but they don't spend enough time digging into the fit between the customer and the target customer, and really understanding their needs and how they work and how they buy, and creating that fit between the actual product and the target market and the problem.
So is this what everybody talks about? Is we build it, they buy it, kind of thing?
Exactly. We'll build it and they will come. Right.
Yeah,
that's the fallacy, and it's, I mean, as long as that saying has been around since I've been in marketing, as many years as I don't want to mention, but it still happens. So it's still a challenge. The second area where people tend to fail is failing to really develop their distinctive competence, their competitive diffinciation. They have a belief that, I've invented this, this whiz bang technology. It's new. I don't have any competition. And they fail to really look at where their product fits and what their sustainable competitive advantage is. So that's the second area. And the third is just failure on marketing execution. Failure to communicate clearly once they have really identified their target market, once they have identified their competitive advantage, they don't do a good job at execution. What's your go-to-market? Well, I'm gonna hire a whiz-bang sales guy and gal, and they're gonna
do it.
they're gonna take care of all that for me. So I don't really need to do this in-depth marketing plan.
That's interesting. So you said something that's really important. I think most people don't realize how important it is, and that is the sustainable competitive advantage. And so, yes, you might have an advantage at the beginning, but how can you sustain it? So I wanted to emphasize that, because I don't think a lot of people understand how important that is. Okay, so just want to remind the audience, please ask questions along the way. Don't wait till the end. So we will answer your questions as we're going through. Lisa, what marketing aspects does a pitch need to include? What are the most important aspects of a pitch deck when it comes to marketing?
Yeah, so really it kind of reflects a little bit what I was just talking about, but it also has to be super concise because it's a pitch deck, right? At TCA, you get 12 minutes to do your pitch, and then we have 12 minutes for Q&A. Again, where the number one failure I tend to see is lack of a clear problem definition. So they might kind of go right into, here's my whiz bang technology, but without a clear definition of what the problem they're solving is.
They're in love with the solution.
Yes, in love with the solution. Yeah, that's a great. And so they haven't really often just spent enough time thinking about the marketing aspects and how it's going to be marketed and what their go-to-market plan is. So clear understanding of the problem you're trying to solve. We do also want to understand what your competitive advantage is, and a real competitive analysis where you're looking at you're comparing relevant, qualities or attributes of your product overlaid on an understanding of your market. We often have entrepreneurs say, well, this is new. I have IP. There's no, I have patents. There's no, I don't have competition. This is all a new thing. So that there's no faster way to get out of a pitch without any money in your hand than telling us you don't have any competition, because there's always another way to do something. It may be painful, expensive, cumbersome, unpleasant, blah blah blah, but there's always another way. So understanding what all those options are, and where you lie in the map, even the perceptual map of the customer's mind, where do you fit in that competitive landscape, and what's your sustainable advantage?
Yep. Okay. All right. That's really good. If you were to think of marketing for a startup versus a marketing for maybe what I call a mature company, is there a difference, you think, between the two?
Yeah, there is, and it's kind of startup entrepreneurial marketing it parallels really the other, all the other things that are different about a startup company, right? You have to have a much more proactive orientation. You have to move fast. You have to be opportunistic. You have to be willing to do some experimentation. Talk to customers, listen to them, make iterations. Remember that startup funding is finite, so you don't want to put all of your eggs in one basket, so to speak, as far as your marketing plan is concerned, because you may not get it right the first time, right? So there's always this cycle of, okay, we're going to try these things. We're going to see if they work. We're going to monitor. We're going to adjust, but don't spend all your marketing money on one program or one type of marketing, because it may not be the right one. Limited resources, the need to iterate and move quickly and adjust, and again, really have a customer focus and really understand who it is that you're creating products for, and being willing to pivot on your product and your marketing is critical.
Yeah, especially early on, you got to be able to do that. We have a question from Scott Robinson. I'll display it on the screen. Scott says, how does a startup build trust in a world severely lacking in it?
Well, that's a deeply layered question, isn't it? So yeah, it's a great question though. So one of the key ways, and what I would really recommend for building trust is initial reference accounts, right? So you've got to go out and get some initial reference account, get some initial customers who are willing to use your product. It may be paid, it may not be paid, and that doesn't really matter initially, because you need them to provide credibility. You need them to provide to be spokespersons, for your company. You need them to be able to provide a case study. You need them to build this trust, right? So that's the best way to build trust, is to go find some very credible initial reference accounts that they can help you in so many ways. Like I said, it doesn't matter if they're paying you or not. You'll get the value out of it. They can help you debug your software. They will also help you define your complete product offering, right? So this whole concept of a complete product offering needs to be fleshed out and vetted, and they can help you do that as well. So, and they have to be able to see what your differentiation is, what your value proposition is. So, really that's a really critical aspect of initially marketing, is getting those initial reference accounts.
So we have a question from Mehran. It's really hitting on the point we talked about earlier, as build it and they'll come. And he goes, what problem did Facebook founders thought they were solving when they started the company? MySpace was already there, and Google started Google Plus. So were they really solving a problem? And I guess there are exceptions to the rules, Mehran. So there you go. But go ahead, Lisa.
Well, again, I'm not going to diagnose what Facebook and MySpace and Google did, but they pivoted a bit, right? And they did it in a way that it's not just about what problem you're solving, but how. And how difficult is it are you displacing something? How difficult is it for people to adopt what you're doing? Having something that's brand new, even if there's an existing, sort of competitor, if you're doing it in a way that's easier and more compelling, and giving people what they want, even, it is true. People don't always know what they want, right? Television is a great example, right? If you went out and asked a bunch of people in the whatever decade that was invented, that, do you need a television? They would say no. But so sometimes you have to show them, and then provide the content and the connectivity and the network effect that people had a hard time understanding before it became a reality, right? It's hard
that's true. That's true.
To know where things are going to go, and until you actually,
like in the case of Facebook and MySpace was there. They were able to know what to do in order to displace them, and they did it better. So it's one of those things where you do it better, cheaper, faster, whatever. It's just a different way.
In a more compelling way that's easier for people to implement and works better for them. Yeah. You don't have to be first.
You don't have to be first, to be
Enough
good.
companies have proved that, right? You don't have to be first. You just have to be better.
What are key elements that a startup marketing needs to define? What are, if a company is starting from scratch and they're looking at building a marketing team or a marketing message, what are the key elements for that?
So it's sort of there's some classic marketing things that don't ever change, which is who's the target customer, and I mean really understanding who they are and what makes them tick. And when part of that is segmentation. When companies come, they say, oh, my product works great for everybody. Well, everybody is nobody, right?
Everybody in the world.
Everybody is nobody. You can't speak to your target customer if you're saying we work great for everybody. Then no one's listening, right? No one's gonna listen to you. If you say that our product works great for attorneys who are having these kinds of challenges. Oh, okay. Well, now if I'm an attorney with these kinds of challenges, now I'm listening, right? So if you say our solution works for everyone, everyone is no one.
So you're saying the more you focus, the better.
Yeah, you have to understand. Your target audience needs to feel like you are speaking to them directly. Okay. Like you get what my problems are. You
Yeah.
get what I'm going through on a a day in the life, right? You get me, and you understand that I have these problems, and you have a solution. Now you have my attention. Okay, so that's that's the first step. The second is, what is it that you're offering, and is it a complete solution, right? So if you're selling toothpaste, what else is part of a complete solution?
Mm.
It's great, but if you just put it on your finger and rub it around, it doesn't really work as well, right? So you need a toothbrush. So what's the complete solution? You have to you can't ignore that, right? You can't live in a vacuum and ignore that. So you have to keep in mind and that actually includes channels as well. How are you going to get your product to the customer? Is it easy for them to buy? Things like that have to be included. So how will so the third thing is, how will the target customer perceive, or what's their perception? What's your positioning? How does the customer going to perceive your offering as it relates to everybody else's the space? Even if there's not something exactly like it, like I said, there's a way for them to do what they're doing. It just is more cumbersome, more expensive, harder, etc. And then why will your solution? What's your value proposition? Why is your solution? Why would I pick your solution over everybody else's? Why is it the best option for me? Even if it's early on, some idea of pricing and how that's going to work. Freemium model is okay as long as you have a plan and you have some conversion data to back up that people are actually willing to start paying for your product. And then what's your channel strategy? How are you going to reach? We're going to hire a whiz bang sales guy. Not a great answer to who are your channel partners? You can't do this alone. How are you going to reach your customers through what channels?
Yeah, that's usually a big deal. That's one of those things I look at all the time, because I call it retail versus channel of distribution, because the retail knocking on doors is just does not work, especially for highly scalable businesses that we're looking at as investors.
Yeah.
Question from Paul. Paul says, when startup pitching to investors for initial investment, would it be a good idea to add a preliminary marketing type slide in the deck?
Yeah, absolutely. Highly recommend including that, because we want to know that you're thinking about it. We want to know, what's your at least your one page marketing plan for getting your product into the market and sold successfully. Again, that's a reason that we started this marketing angels group, is we were tired of having our investments fail because of marketing. So that said, don't forget, in your pitch deck, when you're a startup, you're marketing to your customers, you're marketing to your influencers, you're marketing to your channel partners, your supply chain, etc. But you're also marketing to investors, and it's different, right? So if you're going to include marketing in your pitch deck, don't confuse the two. Yep. So be clear that your pitch deck is you're selling to investors at that moment, right? And what we want to know is what we want to know what your marketing plan is for the product, but then you also have to convince us that this is worth investing in. And what we're interested in is, how are we going to make money? I mean, yes, we love your technology, and we love you too. We really do, and we
love you too, and everything.
We love you too. We really do. But at the end of the day, we want to know what what's the exit plan, right? So don't forget that. Just remember to distinguish between the two. We want to know that you've thought about your marketing and you have a clear, compelling advantage. You've thought about the problem you're trying to solve. You know who your target customers are clearly. You've demonstrated that. You know who your competitors are. You know where you fit in that. But still you're selling to investors who have a different set of needs than your customers. So
we want to make sure that we have a return on investment and know that you can execute.
And know that
a quick question from Alex. Maybe a couple of words on B2C versus B2B.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's I mean, definitely those are I think those are two different things, but essentially the same rules apply, right? So it's B2C marketing is different, right? So you're going to use different methods. If especially if you're going direct versus if you're using e-commerce or channels. So, but your marketing plan is going to be different. You're going to be using more, social media, digital marketing, online marketing. So it's a little bit different, and your messaging is different, and your target marketing is different, but the basic structural elements don't change, right? It's they really are the same. I mean, you still have to have all the basic elements there. You still have to understand the problem you're solving. You still have to understand even more deeply your target customer. You need to be able to make it easy for them to buy. You have to have a compelling market differentiation. It's not that different in terms of the stuff that I'm talking about in terms of strategy. The execution is different, right? Your marketing is different, your execution is different, but this strategy still has to have all the same elements.
All right, we have a question from Teresa. You mentioned marketing angels. Tell us a little bit more about that. What is it?
So this is just a group of investors from Tech Coast Angels, and there's some Cove people and some UCI people in there. We put together this group to support entrepreneurs who are coming through those programs to help them with fine-tuning their marketing. So we offer a diagnostic clinic for these companies. We started out sort of doing it for everybody, and then decided shortly thereafter that we needed to just do it for companies that had funding, because that's our main concern. So we have a questionnaire that anybody who's going to come through our clinic will fill out ahead of time. We have these sort of the three areas. Actually, I have the questionnaire here. The three areas are the marketplace problems that you're addressing, the value proposition, and then your marketing execution. So your strategy and execution. So we have an evaluation that you fill out. You create that, then we invite you to come. We spend I think we typically spend an hour and a half or so in a room with you presenting your marketing to us, and then we evaluate it. We give you feedback. We let you know what you need to work on, and then there's other options, and that's all free of charge. Again, we're doing this to support our investments.
Just to help, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and then if you need follow-on help, then we can steer you in the right direction for getting follow-on help.
Okay, all right. A question for you on, I think this is how do someone balance getting the right marketing versus going to market as quickly as possible?
So getting it right versus getting it quickly. Great question. It's a challenge, and what's that saying is perfect is the enemy of the good, right? So it does matter, right? Because the marketplace is constantly changing. So if you've decided, hey, we have a real problem to solve here. We have a great solution. You need to get it to market while those conditions still exist, as they do. because things change so quickly. I remember, this was, I don't know, 20 plus something years ago. I was working with a group of engineers on a software product, trying to get them to get it to QA and get it finished and get it out the door because we were late, blah, 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 right? And they kept inventing and they would come and they'd show, they'd say, look what we can do. Look at this great new, feature that we added. And I said, that's amazing what you just did. However, that's like number 47 on a list of features, and our customers are going to use, the top 10, right? Draw the line at the top 10. And I struggled to get them to understand what our customers would really use and what the real functionality was. So I was doing some focus groups. I was running focus groups at the time. So I had this idea, I'll bring them to the focus groups. They don't know, they never had, like, you don't let the engineers out of the cage and they don't get to go interact with customers. So they don't really understand, and they didn't believe me. Right. And so, so I took them to some focus groups we were running across the country, put them behind the glass, and, we're doing the focus groups and asking them questions and things. And they walked out of there with the biggest light bulb over the head. And they just went, oh my God, those are our customers? And I said, yes. Now do you understand why I'm drawing the line at the 10 features? And they went, yeah, wow. We get it. All right, we're gonna get these 10 features wrapped up, get it to QA, and and off we go. So again, I can't overestimate or emphasize that, understanding the customer and understanding the problems that they have, and especially this goes to, and that was a by the way, whoever asked that question, that was a B2C product, right? So
there you go. Yeah.
Working with engineers who don't know anything about who the real end customer is. They're not the customer. And I that was something actually I learned. One of my favorite instructors when I was in school, consumer behavior class, said, never confuse yourself with your target customer. You're by definition not your bias. You are not your target.
Exactly.
So if you're building this thing, you're biased. You are not your target customer. So never confuse yourself with your target customer.
Absolutely.
Another.
All right, I have a great question. I think this is really, really good. So this is from Bing. If we are providing the service to children, who's our target customer? The children or the parents?
That's a great question, and that's one of the things that we cover in the Marketing Angels diagnostic is who there's an economic buyer, and then there's an end user, right? So the economic buyer, and this applies not just to that scenario where it's children, right? So economic buyer is mom. User is the child. The same thing can exist if you're selling enterprise software, right? The economic buyer is not the same person as the end user very often. So you need to understand both of those people intimately. And you have to do marketing to the economic buyer, and you have to do marketing to the end user. You have to do both, and they're very, very often they're two different segments, and that's why it's super important to understand both of them. Understand that because they have different needs and different concerns, very different needs and concerns, right?
So sometimes what I hear, from my kids, is they learn about something and they pressure me to buy it for them. So you're targeting the children, but at the same time the parents somehow. So I'm not a marketer, but yeah.
So the kids, so they've successfully marketed to your kids, right? Yeah. Who are now asking you, but if you don't know anything about it, maybe they haven't successfully marketed to you, and you're the economic buyer. So at the same time, you've got to be marketed to, so that you have an understanding of why this is a great choice for your child.
So you're saying it's really both. You're saying
it's actually both. Your set of concerns is very different than your child's. Your child's is interested in something that tastes great, or well, whatever. And yours is it healthy? Is it am I doing the right thing for my child? It's a completely different set of concerns. You're concerned about the price. The kid's probably not so much, right?
Yes, exactly. Just buy it, Dad.
Just buy it, right? That's all.
Yeah.
So that's
All right.
that's a really great question. Thanks for asking that.
No, that's good. So I know that David Friedman, who's the president of TCA Orange County, is on. So there's a question. Maybe you can address it, David. So Maharan is asking about the age of an entrepreneur. When would it be no longer? What would the age affect the pitching to investors or not? So I'll let David take that one on. So a question for you regarding right now is they're no longer acronyms. They've been around for a while, but what the heck is TAM, SAM, and SOM? I mean, we hear them all the time. They used to be called something else. They mean the same thing, but what is it?
I'm a marketing person. I have a master's degree in marketing. It's product management. Marketing is what I've done my whole life. I still hate this whole TAM, SAM, SOM thing, but evidently it's not going away. So
it's not going away.
So it's just a way to look at the market. Primarily in terms of size and accessibility. So we want to know as investors TAM, total addressable market, right? So that's the total universe of the market, maybe worldwide. Let's say, I have an example here that talks about, let's say you're introducing a new fantastic type of organic trade coffee. So your TAM is everyone in the world who drinks coffee. Okay. When you're starting out, though, your distribution isn't going to be the whole world. So especially as starting out, your serviceable addressable market, which is the SAM piece of it, is let's say you're just going to distribute in the U.S. So your SAM is people who drink coffee in the U.S. Maybe it's organic, so maybe it's a little bit. It's people who are concerned about organic consumption in the U.S. All right, so that's sort of your serviceable addressable market, and then you'll have some competition, right? So there's other people existing already selling coffee in the market, and so what's your niche? What's your target niche? And that's your, so SOM is either share of market, which I like better. It's serviceable obtainable market, which is like words that just don't. That gets stuck on your tongue. So let's go with share of market. and that really is who's, again, it comes back to knowing your target market and who are they? What's your niche? Those people that you can speak to that will go, oh, they understand me. They're speaking directly to me as an individual. That's your SOM. And so from there, the reason that's often used in pitch decks is we want to know, is the total market, how big is the total market, and how successful do we think you can be at penetrating that market, and do you have a niche identified that will give you a real foothold, enable you to expand, and how big can you expand to? So that's the usefulness of that model.
Yeah, so I'm guessing that even under that is maybe the low-hanging fruit are the ones that you can get to really quick.
Yeah.
That's like under the SOM even, right? So
yeah.
All right, that's good. Teresa has a quick question about why don't companies have board members that are, in marketing? Because she's thinking that most of the companies don't have a marketing board member on their board. Shouldn't they?
They should, and they should also have women, which they don't have enough of. That's a great question that I don't know the answer to.
I agree.
But yes, absolutely. At least an advisor Maybe you have an advisory board, or maybe it's not a formal board of directors, but yeah, absolutely in either your leadership team or your board of advisors should absolutely contain somebody who is looking after your marketing. Absolutely critical.
So this is an interesting question from Gemini. How do you approach marketing when you are building a marketplace and trying to market to both sides, the supplier and the buyer at the same time? Wow, that's a difficult question.
It's a difficult process.
Process.
Yeah. It's that is a huge challenge, and it takes a lot of resources, right? So
yeah.
The same principles apply, but you have to apply those principles to, those are two completely different sets of people.
And then which one do you do, this or this, right? First.
And I mean that the answer is both. You have to, I believe you have to start with the end user part of the market, because if you can't generate any demand there, then you can't get the supplier's attention.
That's interesting.
Anyway.
Yeah.
But it does take a lot of resources, right? And you have to put specific attention on each of those different sets of constituents. But you still have to have all the same components. You just have to have them doubled. So it is a huge challenge. And having, potentially if there's somebody on your team who is better at the supplier side, you can have them focus there. And others who are better at the user side, you can have them focus. But it's a challenge, and I really recommend, again, all the same components come into play. You still have to understand them both. You still have to speak to them both. You still have to market to them both. You have double the marketing on your hands, and so
wow.
it's a huge resource issue. So planning, I guess some of the best things you can do is just understand that you have a double resource drain there, and you're going to have to account for that in your planning, in your marketing plan, in your financials. You have to account for that, and you have to have people on your team who can who can pay attention to each of those markets. It's a big challenge.
It is. I agree. So. What about, if someone says, hey, look, my product is revolutionary. There are no competitors. Do I still need to create a competitive analysis? I mean, especially if they're pitching, right? I mean, how would I know that doesn't exist in revolutionary as an investor?
Yeah. So the thing about that is even if what you're doing is revolutionary and it's unique and it's new and nobody's ever done it, it's still valuable, because where you have to make an impact is in the mind of your target market. And in the mind of your target market, there's a field of possible solutions to do what it is that you're saying. Let's say that you're we wind the calendar back in time, and you're providing online banking, let's say, or e-commerce, or something that's being done digitally that was an analog process before.
Well, right.
That's unique and new. Yes, if I can go online and do my banking and not have to go into the bank, sure, that's revolutionary. But I still have the option of doing it manually and going to the bank. It's way less convenient. It's way more time consuming. I can't do it in the middle of the night when I have time to do my banking. And so in your, even if it's a completely different way of accomplishing the task, there still exists competition. And so we want to know that you've at least thought about what happens in the mind of your consumer, and where the potential future competition comes from, right? So even if you have patents, they only go so far, and other people can work around them and provide solutions that, if you're, it's that old saying, right? Keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. If you don't know where your potential competition is going to come from, you can get blindsided by them. And, you still need to know where they might come from and where in the minds of your consumer do those, where are you in their perceptual minefield, and where are those other solutions? There are other solutions. It's just a matter of how challenging they are. When I've been working with Float Shuttle, which is a startup in LA that is not right now because nobody's going to work, but they're flying people to work instead of driving. So, is there anybody else doing that right now? No, they're not. So they could say, well, we have no competition because there isn't anybody else who will fly you from Orange County to Santa Monica. There isn't anybody else who will fly you from Santa Monica to Van Nuys or to Burbank or to Long Beach or to Fullerton or to any of these other, nobody else is doing that. Well, but I can still get in my car and drive. I mean, that's the, the competition, right? Or a van pool, or, anything like that.
There's always some type of competition. Yeah.
There's always some type of competition.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. All right. You're good?
Sorry. My computer's like trying to fall asleep again. And then, there we go. Okay.
Right.
I guess what we're doing is not active enough for my computer.
Yeah, not enough. So how important is to have initial reference accounts when it comes to marketing?
Yeah, it's really critical. I think we talked about this a little bit early on, but it is probably one of the most important things that you can do as a startup, is to have initial reference accounts, and the right initial reference accounts, right? Because it helps validate your product. It helps work out the kinks and the bugs in your product. And you also want them to be willing to be public spokespersons or reference, right? They have to be willing to do it publicly, right? Not just, well, we'll be your beta tester, we'll be your initial, but you can't tell anybody. So they have to be willing to help you create case studies and be a spokespersons and be a reference for you to break in, because they'll really help you get introduced into the right places. They'll help you really fine tune your compelling offer, right? Your distinctive competence, and those areas that I mentioned at the start of where startups tend to fail, not being able to clearly articulate you may have a compelling offer, but if you can't articulate it well or speak well to your target audience about it, and your initial reference account will help you do that. They give you also an insight into, one thing we haven't talked about is support. So customer support. I've actually looked at startups that have nothing in their financials for support. Well, our product is so fantastic that we won't have any support issues, and no one will be calling us. And your initial reference account can also help with that, because they'll come up with questions and support issues and challenges. So they help you as well, not just with the marketing, but the customer support aspect, right? So what kind of issues are our customers going to run into? What are they going to call us about? And how can we, what can we do to give them answers before they have to call us? So they really, really help out with that as well.
All right. So I have a question. It's, we could spend hours on this one, but let's just answer it narrowly from a marketing standpoint. what top tips or recommendations would you suggest to entrepreneurs making a pitch to investors to make them stand out, to be memorable? Conversely, what not to do? So we can talk. I could probably talk 3 hours about this.
Right. You can probably answer that question.
No, from a marketing standpoint, any specific, maybe 1 or 2 recommendations?
I think keys are being very clear about understanding the problems you're trying to solve. That you're not just a solution in search of a problem.
Okay.
And also understanding what investors are looking for. So again, in that particular scenario, you're pitching to investors. So, tell me what the exit looks like. Who are some potential? Is there an acquisition? Is it how are we going to get out of this thing? In what time frame? And how are we going to make money? Also, have a reasonable valuation, right? So,
Yeah.
Oh my God, how many times do we look at pitch decks that just have these valuations that are like, they're not based on anything.
They have no revenue, no proof of market validation, and they have a $10 million valuation.
Yeah. No revenues, no customers, no anything.
Right.
So have an understanding of who you're marketing to, right? Ask some questions. We talk to people all the time, right? We're friendly. We're easy to get to. Call and ask. Find out first before you. Again, it's the same thing for your clients. Understand your target audience, right? If you understand your target audience and what we're looking for, we can tell you exactly what your pitch deck should contain, and that alone will make you stand out.
Yep. All right, so we have less than 4 minutes left. So I'm gonna ask you to think about at the end 1 recommendation only that you would give to. So you have time to think about that to give to entrepreneurs at the end. But before that, tell us a little bit about your what you're trying to do as being the VP of Tecos Angels Orange County. What are your thoughts about what you're trying to do for entrepreneurs and for investors? Because we're volunteers as part of the organization, but we're trying to serve both too.
Yeah, thanks. So one of the primary things that I'm doing as Vice President at TCA Orange County is deal flow. So we are interested in getting the best quality deal flow that we can, meaning the best quality opportunities coming through for investors. But if we can match up, great deal flow with investors who care about what they're doing, then that's the best for both worlds, right? So getting quality deal flow through the door, getting entrepreneurs through the door, and a lot of what I do to help that process is help entrepreneurs with their pitch decks. So we get applications all the time. I look at all the applications. Our processes, they go from an application to a pre-screening to a screening, right? So I monitor the applications and the pre-screens, and then if they get past that, they go into a full screening. So I help them to try and put their best foot forward and get the right elements there. The other really important thing that I'm trying to do is create more diversity in TCA. I really want to encourage women investors to get involved with TCA. We're really underrepresented as a group in TCA. And so I'm really trying to be visible and helping women investors to get involved with TCA. And also helping women entrepreneurs, right? So I'm also kind of working internally to make sure that we are doing the right things for female entrepreneurs and helping them get funding.
Okay. All right. Very good. So I'm going to do some closing stuff while you think about the 1 recommendation. So 1 is, again, you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to do that, and follow us on social media. The other thing is this program is recorded. It will be posted on YouTube in about 24 hours. If you have additional questions that we could not answer, again, you can email them to pvinfo@pismoventures.com. Events that are coming up, we have great events coming up. Next week, it's Grant Van Cleve. He is the TCA chairman of the entire TCA, all the chapters we have. And I don't know if everybody knows, but Tecos Angels is the largest angel group in the nation. Week after that, we have Bill Carpu. He is the CEO of Octane. After that, on June 1st, we have Richard Sudek, who was the former chairman of TCA, and he runs UCI Cove. So great programs coming up. Stay tuned in. And Lisa, what's your one recommendation?
Okay, so my one thing is to clearly establish a compelling, sustainable, competitive advantage. If you come in the door and show us that you clearly have that, you will get all the help you need and be successful.
Lisa, thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate your time, and thank you for being the first woman VP of TCA OC.
Yay!
There you go. Thanks. Have a great day, everyone, and thank you